Beneath the shallow waters of the Indo-Pacific reef systems, where the sand shifts in gentle ripples and broken coral fragments shimmer beneath the sunlit surface, something waits. Still, silent, and nearly indistinguishable from the detritus of the sea. A diver's eye might scan past it a dozen times, mistaking it for a rock speckled with algae or a coral stump broken by storms. But buried in the silt, just deep enough to hide its outline, lies the stonefish, a creature that does not move unless it must, because motion gives away intent, and intent means a missed opportunity. The stonefish is a master of passivity. Its power does not come from speed or strength, but from being overlooked. It is the most venomous fish known to science, yet it relies not on the hunt, but on ambush, and often on sheer accident. Many of its victims are not prey at all, but humans, snorkelers and waders, unaware that the flat patch of coral they're stepping on hides something far more sinister than stone. With 13 spines across its back, each tipped with needle-like grooves connected to venom glands, the stonefish is armed like a biological minefield. Step on it, and the effect is immediate. Intense, radiating pain, tissue necrosis, paralysis, and, in the worst cases, cardiac arrest. Death is rare but possible, and untreated stings can lead to lifelong disability. Yet for all its danger, the stonefish is not aggressive. It does not pursue. It barely swims. It is a predator engineered entirely around the idea of waiting. When it hunts, it does so by inertia. Small fish, shrimp and crabs drift too close, lulled by the stillness. At the critical moment, sometimes in less than 0.015 seconds, the stonefish flares its cavernous mouth, creating a powerful vacuum that draws in its prey whole. There is no chewing, no tearing, only sudden, complete ingestion. The mouth snaps shut like a trapdoor, and the creature returns to stillness, covered again by the camouflage of algae and reef sand. The entire event over in a blink. This hunting strategy, called lie-in-wait predation, is the evolutionary opposite of what people often associate with predators. No chase, no struggle, no athleticism. And yet, in the precise ecosystem of the reef, it is devastatingly effective. In areas where stonefish populations are dense, smaller reef dwellers alter their swim paths or hover higher above the substrate, as if instinctively aware of the living traps embedded below. The ecological pressure they exert is subtle but constant, influencing fish movement patterns and even shaping the spatial use of certain reef zones. The stonefish's body is an evolutionary sculpture of deception. Its mottled, lumpy skin is covered in irregular projections that mimic coral polyps and broken shell debris. These dermal flaps break up its silhouette underwater, especially in dappled light. Its coloration changes subtly with the substrate, more red in iron-rich sands, more brown or olive in seagrass zones. What's remarkable is not just that the stonefish looks like the reef. It is the reef, functionally indistinguishable. Even trained marine biologists must scan carefully to spot one. The venom itself is not meant for hunting. It's defensive, a backup system for a predator that is nearly immobile. It targets the cardiovascular and nervous systems, delivering a mix of proteins like vericotoxin and stonostoxin, which trigger excruciating pain and systemic collapse in large vertebrates. In prey animals, the stonefish does not need venom. Its speed and vacuum pressure are enough to do the job. But when larger threats loom, especially terrestrial mammals who blunder into its zone, that venom becomes its last line of deterrence. In an ecosystem where creatures like moray eels and reef sharks may nose through crevices indiscriminately, this chemical weaponry ensures the stonefish is one of the few reef animals that even apex predators avoid. This combination of extreme defense and patient offense has allowed the stonefish to outlast changes that devastated other reef species. During coral bleaching events, while fast-moving hunters like groupers or wrasses may lose their prey base and migrate, the stonefish remains buried, able to survive on whatever slow-moving life still creeps across the benthos. It has a surprisingly robust tolerance to fluctuating salinity and temperature, and its sedentary lifestyle means it requires very little energy. Even in dying reefs, the stonefish endures, a sinister reminder that survival is often not about dominance, but about not being seen at all. Stonefish reproduction is poorly understood, but what researchers do know further underscores its strange lifestyle. Fertilization is external. Females deposit eggs in a gelatinous ribbon or mass on the reef floor, where males pass over to fertilize them. There's no nest, no care, no investment beyond the initial act. The larvae that hatch must immediately begin navigating a perilous reef ecosystem filled with ambush predators, including, ironically, their own kind. Juvenile stonefish are miniature versions of adults, and cannibalism is not uncommon when food is scarce. In traditional coastal cultures of the Indo-Pacific, from northern Australia to parts of Southeast Asia, stonefish occupy a strange place in folklore and survival lore. In Aboriginal communities, for instance, the fish is both feared and respected. Warning tales about its sting are passed down generations, and stonefish spears, specialized tools designed to pin and lift the fish without contact, are still used in some areas. Anti-venom exists, but supplies are often limited to urban centers. In many remote islands, the only treatment is heat, immersing the sting site in hot water, as heat can denature some of the venom's proteins and offer temporary relief. But even then, the pain can last for days, pulsing and burning in waves, not unlike the slow rhythm of the ocean itself. Perhaps the most disconcerting truth about the stonefish is this: in the hierarchy of marine predators, it challenges our very definition of what it means to kill. It is neither fast nor flashy. It does not patrol territories or stage hunts. It does not need teamwork or intelligence or even movement. It simply waits. And in the coral labyrinth of the Indo-Pacific, where chaos and color blur the edges of perception, the predator that waits is often the one that wins. This is the toxic throne, not built on violence, but on silence, not ruled by chase, but by stillness. In a world obsessed with power and pursuit, the stonefish survives by doing nothing at all. And that, perhaps, is the most dangerous tactic of all. In the fractured blue silence of the western Atlantic reefs, a creature drifts with unsettling grace, its presence both beautiful and ominous, like a slow-moving fire with fins. The lionfish is not native here, yet it moves as if it owns the territory, spreading like an oil slick across coral gardens and sponge-covered ledges. Its long feathered spines pulse rhythmically in the current, not flapping or twitching, but unfolding with the quiet confidence of something that has never known fear. It doesn't need to hide. There is nothing here that hunts it. And in that vacuum of threat, the lionfish has become not just a predator, but an ecological warhead. The lionfish is a study in contradictions. Its crimson stripes and flowing fins resemble the ceremonial dress of something too delicate for combat. But beneath this display is a biological wrecking machine. Native to the Indo-Pacific, where its numbers are balanced by evolved predators and local competitors, the lionfish has become a runaway invader in the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and southeastern coast of the United States. Scientists believe that just a few escaped aquarium specimens introduced in the 1980s, possibly during Hurricane Andrew, were enough to seed an explosion. With no natural enemies in these waters, no parasites to weaken them, and a reproductive rate that rivals invasive rodents, lionfish now occupy a niche that didn't exist until they made one. Their hunting style is slow-motion sabotage. Unlike reef predators that rely on speed or surprise, lionfish excel at deception and positioning. When they target prey, typically juvenile reef fish, shrimp, or crab, they use their outstretched pectoral fins like a trap, herding the quarry into a corner or against a coral ledge. Once boxed in, the lionfish strikes in a fluid lunge, expanding its jaw and creating a sudden pressure vacuum that sucks its meal in whole. There is no chewing, no second attempt. It is over before the prey understands what has happened. Even more chilling is the way lionfish manipulate their surroundings. They move slowly, deliberately, using those flowing fins to create turbulence that masks their body and confuses the lateral line sensors of their prey. It's a calculated violation of the rules of engagement. Less a hunt, more an execution. What makes this behavior catastrophic is not just its efficiency, but its frequency. A single adult lionfish can consume over 50 smaller reef fish in a day. In some regions of the Atlantic, local fish populations have dropped by over 80% in the presence of lionfish, collapsing age structures and threatening species that are foundational to reef health. Herbivores like parrotfish and damselfish, which keep algae in check and allow coral to grow, are among the primary targets. As their numbers fall, the reefs themselves begin to die, not because of direct damage, but because their maintenance crews have been eaten out of existence. Lionfish are more than just hungry. They are relentless breeders. A female can release up to 30,000 eggs every 4 days, encapsulated in gelatinous rafts that drift with the currents. These eggs hatch within days, spreading larvae across vast distances before they settle into the benthic zone to mature. Juveniles grow quickly, reaching reproductive age within a year, and the cycle continues without resistance. Unlike many marine fish whose larvae suffer high mortality due to predators and disease, lionfish offspring in the Atlantic benefit from a kind of ecological amnesia. None of the native fish recognize them as a threat or a meal. The reef doesn't know how to fight them, and so it doesn't. Venom is another evolutionary overachievement. Along their dorsal, pelvic, and anal spines, lionfish carry a potent neurotoxin capable of causing intense pain, swelling, and in rare cases, systemic complications in humans. The venom is not used in hunting, it's purely defensive, a deterrent against would-be attackers. In their native Indo-Pacific habitat, this protection levels the playing field. But in invaded waters, it makes them untouchable. Few predators are brave or foolish enough to bite down on spines loaded with painful consequences. Some large groupers, sharks and moray eels, have been observed consuming lionfish, but such events are rare and inconsistent, more anecdote than strategy. The ecological response to this crisis has been as unusual as the invasion itself. Divers and conservationists, unable to rely on nature's checks and balances, have turned to organized culling events, lionfish derbies, where spearfishers compete to remove as many individuals as possible. Local seafood industries have tried to flip the script by marketing lionfish as a delicacy, with chefs turning their white, flaky meat into ceviche, tacos, and sashimi. The idea is not just removal, but rebranding. If humans become the predator the reef needs, perhaps balance can be restored. It's a rare case of culinary conservation, where the solution is not to protect a species, but to eat it into submission. Yet even with these efforts, the lionfish continues to expand its range. Individuals have been found as far north as New York and as deep as 1,000 feet below the surface, far beyond the reach of most culling efforts. Their tolerance for salinity and temperature shifts is broader than initially expected. Some researchers speculate that deep water populations may be forming reservoirs, spawning adults that repopulate shallower reefs even after localized removal. It's a sobering reminder that once a marine invader establishes a foothold, containment becomes a race against biology itself. From a physiological standpoint, lionfish are marvels of adaptation. Their bodies are compact and armored with tough scales, yet their fins are elastic and expressive. Their eyes are highly developed, allowing for precision hunting in low light. Even their behavior changes based on environment. Lionfish in deeper, colder waters grow more slowly and are less active, while those in warm, shallow reefs feed aggressively and breed more often. There's an unsettling intelligence behind their spread. Not conscious planning, but evolutionary opportunism executed with stunning success. For scientists studying predator-prey dynamics, the lionfish represents a real-time case study of what happens when ecological rules are rewritten. It's not just that the lionfish is thriving, it's that it is doing so at the expense of everything else. It creates trophic cascades, where the loss of key reef fish leads to algal blooms, coral smothering, and the decline of biodiversity. It alters the behavior of other predators, which either move out of lionfish-dominated areas or face competition for prey that is no longer abundant. Even commercial fisheries are affected, as juvenile snappers and groupers fall victim to lionfish before they reach maturity. And yet, despite the damage, the lionfish itself is not malicious. It is not evil, nor is it acting with intent. It is simply doing what it has always done, only in a place that cannot absorb the consequences. Its beauty, those flowing, flame-like fins, belie a biological machine that operates with eerie precision. It is both a victim of human carelessness and a beneficiary of ecological ignorance. It did not ask to be here. But now that it is, it won't leave. In the end, the lionfish isn't just a predator, it's a lesson, a reminder that in marine ecosystems, borders are illusions and balance is fragile. That one species, displaced or released at the wrong time, can tip the scales across entire regions. And that sometimes the most destructive force in the sea is not what swims fast or bites hard, but what arrives unnoticed and stays until it's too late. In the dim, dappled silence of the reef, where movement usually signals life or danger, the starfish seems like neither. It does not dart or glide or ripple like the reef's more conspicuous inhabitants. Instead, it spreads across the seabed in slow, deliberate contact, a five-armed satellite pressing into coral, rock, or sand as if tasting the terrain. And in a way, it is. Beneath its deceptively still form, the starfish is both censor and assassin, one of the ocean's most misunderstood predators, and among the strangest creatures evolution has produced. What makes the starfish unsettling is not its speed or strength, it has neither, but what happens when its calm facade gives way to function. When it finds prey, often a bivalve like a mussel or a clam, the starfish does something almost alien. It attaches its suctioned tube feet along the prey's shell edges and begins to pull. The force is not sudden but unrelenting, a slow siege of hydraulic pressure that tires the bivalve over minutes or hours. When the shell yields just enough, sometimes less than a millimeter, the starfish everts its own stomach through its mouth, located on its underside, and slides it into the crack. What follows is external digestion. The prey is liquefied, digested outside the starfish's body, and absorbed as nutrients before the stomach is drawn back inside. The predator never bites, never swallows. It simply opens, melts, and consumes. This process isn't just gruesome, it's effective. In rocky tide pools and coral reefs alike, starfish play a quiet but significant role in shaping populations of mussels, barnacles, and even coral polyps. The crown-of-thorns starfish, a spiny, massive species native to the Indo-Pacific, feeds almost exclusively on living coral tissue. With up to 21 arms and thousands of tiny tube feet, it moves over reef structures like a slow wildfire, digesting coral polyps as it goes. A single adult can consume 6 square meters of coral per year. In outbreak conditions, when predator numbers explode due to warmer waters or disrupted ecological balances, thousands of crown-of-thorns can descend on reefs, turning vibrant living systems into skeletons within weeks. Not all starfish are destroyers. Many serve essential ecological roles, cleaning detritus, balancing mollusk populations, or aerating sediment. But their capabilities remain extraordinary. Starfish belong to a group of animals known as echinoderms, relatives of sea urchins and sea cucumbers. Their entire nervous and circulatory systems defy typical anatomy. They have no centralized brain. Instead, a nerve ring and radial nerve cords coordinate motion and sensory input. Their vascular system is hydraulic, moving seawater through canals to operate their tube feet, allowing them to grip surfaces with astonishing strength for such soft-bodied animals. Regeneration is one of their most famous and misunderstood talents. While it's commonly known that starfish can regrow lost arms, the process is more nuanced. If a starfish loses 1 or 2 arms, it can regenerate them over months or years. Some species, like the Lynchia, can regenerate an entirely new individual from a single arm fragment, as long as part of the central disc is attached. This regenerative ability makes them resilient to predation and physical trauma. Starfish can survive near-fatal injuries that would doom almost any other marine animal. It also enables them to reproduce asexually in some cases, budding off new individuals from fragments of themselves. Starfish do not breathe as fish do. Their skin is covered with tiny projections called papillae, or skin gills, through which gas exchange occurs. Oxygen diffuses directly from the surrounding water, meaning the quality and movement of water around them can impact their metabolism dramatically. This close interaction with their environment, paired with their extremely low-energy lifestyles, gives them a sensitivity to water chemistry that is being tested in a rapidly changing ocean. In recent years, mass starfish die-offs have occurred along the Pacific coasts of North America, the result of what scientists call sea star wasting syndrome. In affected areas, starfish suddenly develop lesions, lose limbs, and dissolve into pale sludge. The cause appears to be a densovirus, but the spread and severity are linked to warming sea temperatures and oceanic stress. In an ironic twist, the very species that can survive dismemberment and reproduce from fragments may be undone by microscopic changes to their ecosystem. And yet, even in these losses, their ecological importance becomes clearer. Where starfish vanish, prey species explode, and entire tidal ecosystems fall out of balance. Their locomotion is silent but complex. Beneath each arm are hundreds of tube feet, each capable of independent motion. Coordinated through chemical signals and simple nerves, the feet grip and release in sequence, allowing the starfish to flow over rock and coral like an organism made of water. In time-lapse footage, this movement becomes apparent, not a crawl, but a kind of marine choreography, eerily smooth, as if the creature were poured across the substrate instead of walking over it. There is no face, no forward motion. Starfish move toward food or away from danger, guided by chemical cues and light-sensitive eye spots at the tips of each arm. These eyes are primitive, capable of detecting only general brightness and shadow. But for a predator that doesn't chase, it's enough. Prey is not pursued but stumbled upon. The ocean's natural currents often assist, sweeping the starfish into contact with clams, dead fish, or coral. What follows depends on species. Some feed exclusively on slow, sessile organisms, while others scavenge, detecting carrion from meters away using chemoreceptors in their feet. And it is in this passive yet unrelenting strategy that the starfish's role as predator becomes clear. It is not aggressive. It does not intimidate. It waits, detects, attaches, and consumes with a process that is as clinical as it is alien. In some reef systems, starfish presence dictates the survival rates of mussel colonies and barnacle beds. In others, especially during crown of thorns outbreaks, they become forces of destruction that rival hurricanes in terms of ecological damage. For marine biologists, starfish represent a challenge to conventional predator classifications. They lack brains, jaws, or complex hunting tactics, yet they devastate prey. They are neither fast nor particularly large, yet their impact on coral reefs can exceed that of apex fish species. Their external digestion system is a marvel of evolutionary specialization, and their regeneration defies most models of vertebrate biology. They are, quite simply, predators built on rules outside the familiar playbook. In the quiet corners of tide pools and in the vast sprawl of tropical reef flats, starfish continue their ancient work, feeding, splitting, reforming, dissolving life and absorbing it. They do not roar or lunge or snap, but they are predators all the same, pressing their arms against the foundations of the reef, patiently reshaping it one melted meal at a time. And for those who imagine the ocean as a place where beauty and danger wear different faces, the starfish offers a quiet correction. Sometimes the deadliest creature is the one you never see move at all. The seabed lies hushed beneath a midday tide, a shifting canvas of golden silt and scattered shells. Rays of sunlight fracture across the surface above, but down here, where the water is dense and the light softens into muted blue, the world moves in slow, almost suspended motion. Nothing disturbs the quiet except for the flicker of silversides or the lazy pulse of seagrass. And yet in this deceptive stillness a shape stirs. Almost imperceptibly the sand breathes. A thin ripple pulses outward like something exhaling beneath a blanket. Then it moves. A stingray lifts from the seafloor, not with a start, but with the fluid silence of a silk sheet caught in a breeze. Its wide, flattened body unfurls, the wings, technically pectoral fins, undulating in rhythmic, hypnotic strokes. It does not swim so much as it glides, drawing no attention, trailing a long, tapering tail like a loose cable behind it. With no dorsal fin, no aggressive thrust, it cuts through water without resistance, hugging the contours of the seabed like a shadow that has come loose. This is not a creature built to chase or to lunge. It is designed to disappear, then strike when the world has already let its guard down. There are over 200 species of stingray in oceans across the globe, from the tropical shallows of the Caribbean to the muddy estuaries of the Amazon Delta, and even the colder coastal zones of temperate seas. Though they vary in size, from the dinner plate dimensions of a round stingray to the formidable span of a rough-tail ray stretching over 2 meters, their behavior shares the same blueprint: remain undetected until it's too late. They are ambush predators, specialists of surprise, and their main weapon isn't their venomous tail, it's invisibility. During daylight hours, stingrays often bury themselves in sand, using rapid fin movements to suck in substrate and settle under a fine layer of sediment. Only their spiracles, small openings behind the eyes, remain visible, pulsing gently as they draw water over their gills. They watch the world above with upward-facing eyes while remaining nearly invisible from above. This camouflage isn't passive, it's active strategy. Prey items like crustaceans, mollusks, and small bottom-dwelling fish pass overhead, unaware that the seafloor itself is about to come alive. Unlike most fish, stingrays don't rely heavily on vision or sound to hunt. Their primary tool is electroreception, a sensory system that allows them to detect the faint bioelectric signals emitted by the muscles and nerves of other animals. Varied prey, even those hidden deep under layers of sand, give off detectable signatures. Specialized organs called ampullae of Lorenzini, located around the stingray's snout, act like biological radar. They pick up the faint pulses of a crab's twitching legs or the slow heartbeat of a bivalve, guiding the ray to dig, pounce, or suck its meal from hiding with vacuum-like force. When it feeds, the stingray undergoes a startling transformation. What once seemed like a drifting sheet becomes a powerful engine of downward pressure. The ray flares its pectoral fins to create a seal against the sand, then uses its mouth, positioned on the underside of its body, to suck in prey with explosive suction. In species like the southern stingray, the crushing plates within its mouth pulverize shellfish in seconds, leaving only shards and silt in its wake. What follows is a brief flutter of sediment, a puff of debris, and then, once again, stillness. But for all their stealth and elegance, stingrays are not invulnerable. In fact, their passive hunting method leaves them exposed to ambush from above. Sharks are their primary predators, particularly hammerheads, whose broadheads evolved in part to pin stingrays to the bottom and rip them from the sand. Dolphins, too, have been observed flipping rays over to avoid the tail's threat before consuming them. And it's here that the stingray's defensive arsenal becomes most infamous, the venomous barb. The tail spine of a stingray is not designed for offense. It is a deterrent, an evolutionary failsafe. This spine is not flexible like a whip, but rigid, serrated and edged with backward-facing barbs. It lies at rest against the tail, but when the ray is threatened, particularly when stepped on or pinned, it lashes upward with enough force to pierce thick skin, wetsuits, or even bone. The sting is not merely mechanical. Along grooves in the spine, venom-producing cells secrete a potent mix of enzymes, proteins, and neurotoxins that cause intense pain, swelling, tissue necrosis, and, in rare cases, death. Most famously, this defense mechanism claimed the life of Australian conservationist Steve Irwin in 2006, when a short-tailed stingray's spine pierced his chest while he swam above it. The incident, while tragic and statistically rare, thrust stingrays into the global spotlight and cemented their reputation as dangerous. Yet most stingray injuries occur not in dramatic encounters, but in shallow surf zones, where unsuspecting beachgoers step directly onto a buried ray. The result is often a tail snap, a foot puncture, and immediate searing pain. The stingray is gone by the time the victim realizes what happened. And yet danger is not the defining trait of these animals. In many indigenous cultures, stingrays are symbols of protection, stealth, or even transformation. Polynesian tattoos feature rays gliding across skin as guardians of the ocean. In ancient Mesoamerican myths, stingray spines were used in bloodletting rituals, regarded as sacred tools to commune with gods. To some Pacific Island peoples, the stingray's silent movement was considered a lesson. Strength does not always roar. In terms of cognition, rays are far from simple. As members of the elasmobranch family, alongside sharks, they have demonstrated complex learning behaviors in lab settings. Some species can navigate mazes, remember object locations, and associate stimuli with rewards. Though their brains are small in absolute size, they are large relative to body weight, and particularly developed in areas associated with spatial learning and sensory processing. These are not mindless gliders, but aware, reactive creatures capable of learning and adapting. In reef systems where rays are protected, their presence is often a signal of ecosystem health. They help control crustacean populations, aerate sandy flats with their feeding pits, and serve as prey for larger predators, maintaining trophic balance. But in areas where overfishing, habitat loss, and pollution run unchecked, rays suffer along with everything else. Bottom trawling, one of the most destructive fishing practices, can obliterate ray populations in a single pass, while runoff from agriculture and coastal development reduces the clarity and chemistry of the shallow habitats stingrays rely on for feeding and reproduction. Despite their low profile in marine media compared to sharks or whales, stingrays are essential to the rhythm of nearshore marine life. They are a reminder that not all predators are meant to be seen, that some hunt not with speed, but with stillness, not with pursuit, but with presence. Their warfare is hidden, gliding, pausing, striking, vanishing, and their survival depends on a delicate combination of stealth, sensitivity, and timing. As the ray folds back into the sand, fins drawing sediment over its back like a quilt, the illusion of emptiness returns. The same patch of seafloor that moments ago hosted a kill now holds nothing but silence. No blood, no wreckage, just a slight change in texture, a bit of stirred silt settling into place. The sea has many hunters, but few are as quiet, as patient, or as ghost-like as the stingray. It does not announce its presence, it does not chase its prey, it waits, and the ocean rarely notices until it's already too late. In the open water, where the seafloor vanishes into infinite blue and predators roam without walls, speed and coordination become currency for survival. The upper twilight zone, around 200 meters below the surface, is neither fully lit nor completely dark. a dim, liminal space where outlines blur and motion betrays intention. In this shifting veil of light, a school of fish darts suddenly to the left. The reason arrives half a second later, streaking in from below like a missile. A flash of white, a ripple of motion, then nothing. Only a dissipating cloud of ink and a vanishing silhouette. The squid does not linger. It has fed and is gone. Unlike many marine predators that rely on brute force or sheer size, squid operate on another principle entirely: speed, coordination, and deception. Built for burst movement and precision strikes, they are among the fastest invertebrates in the sea. Using a form of jet propulsion, they take in water through a siphon beneath their mantle and forcefully expel it behind them, converting fluid pressure into thrust. The result is a sudden linear burst of motion, clean, fast, and nearly untraceable. When combined with directional control from their fins and tentacles, this movement becomes more than escape. It becomes a weapon. In shallow seas, species like the reef squid coordinate their attacks with remarkable efficiency. These aren't solitary ambush hunters. They often move in cooperative packs, signaling one another with chromatophores, the pigment-filled cells that expand and contract to change skin color. While their prey, usually shrimp or small fish, see only a shifting shimmer, other squid read messages: flank, distract, strike. One distracts with a frontal approach, flashing white and pulsing rapidly to draw attention. A second darts from behind, arms outstretched, seizing the stunned prey in a split-second grapple. The kill is mechanical. Rows of suction cups, some lined with chitinous hooks, latch on and pull the victim into a sharp beak hidden beneath the mantle. There, it is sliced with surgical precision before the next strike begins. The brain behind this operation is shockingly sophisticated for an invertebrate. Squid belong to the class Cephalopoda, alongside cuttlefish and octopuses, and they are neurological outliers. Their brains are large relative to their body size, among the largest of any invertebrate, and their nervous systems are decentralized, distributed throughout their limbs. Each of their 10 arms operates semi-independently, equipped with its own cluster of neurons that can interpret stimuli and respond autonomously. This means a squid can multitask on a level most vertebrates cannot comprehend, grappling with prey, scanning for predators, and communicating with peers simultaneously through body posture and skin patterns. But what truly separates squid from other predators is their ability to vanish. The ink defense is not just about escape. When threatened, the squid releases a cloud of melanin-rich ink from a gland near its siphon. This plume, combined with a sudden jet-propelled burst, acts as both smokescreen and decoy. Some species even shape their ink into pseudomorphs, roughly squid-shaped blobs that pulse and drift, mimicking the fleeing body. While a predator fixates on the phantom, the real squid is already meters away, camouflaging or descending into deeper water. In the deep sea, squid morph into something else entirely. Gone are the coordinated hunting packs and coral reef shadows. Here, in darkness beyond the reach of sunlight, the ocean becomes an arms race of bioluminescence, stealth, and surreal anatomy. The deep-sea squid exhibit adaptations that border on science fiction. Some species produce their own light through photophores, clusters of light-emitting cells that help them mask their silhouette when viewed from below. A trick known as counter-illumination. Others flash their entire bodies in chaotic bursts, stunning prey or confusing potential predators. Among the most infamous is the giant squid, Architeuthis dux, a creature once confined to myth and sailors' tales, but now confirmed by science. With eyes as large as basketballs and tentacles that can reach lengths over 10 meters, the giant squid is not simply oversized, it's specialized for life in near-absolute darkness. Its enormous eyes detect the faintest glimmer of bioluminescent prey or approaching sperm whales, its primary natural enemy. Rather than chase, the giant squid relies on stealth, rising vertically from deeper layers to surprise prey with a sudden grab from below. Its tentacles, distinct from its shorter arms, end in clubs lined with suckers, and in some species, rotating hooks, a design that ensures nothing escapes once captured. Though rarely seen alive, giant squid carcasses are found in the stomachs of sperm whales, or washed ashore after deep water currents lift the dead from the abyss. Scars found on sperm whales' faces suggest that these encounters are not one-sided. In the depths, squid are not just hunters, they are also fighters, locked in battles with the largest toothed predators on Earth. Further still in the black zones of the ocean, the colossal squid, Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, resides, a close relative of the giant squid, even heavier and more robust, with swiveling hooks on its limbs and a thick, muscular mantle. Unlike its cousin, it is believed to be more sluggish, relying on ambush tactics and brute strength rather than speed. Very little is known about its behavior, but its anatomy tells a story of cold, crushing depths where efficiency replaces elegance. Squid reproduction is no less dramatic than their lives. Mating often involves a sudden grapple, with males transferring spermatophores, packets of sperm, into the female's mantle cavity using a modified arm. In many species, this act is the beginning of the end. Males typically die shortly after mating, and females follow soon after laying their eggs. There is no parental care. The next generation hatches alone, adrift in the plankton, vulnerable to every filter-feeding mouth until they grow large enough to strike out as predators themselves. In this fleeting life cycle, speed and strategy are everything. Despite their alien appearance, squid play a foundational role in marine ecosystems. They are both predator and prey in nearly every oceanic food web, feeding on crustaceans and fish while providing critical sustenance to seals, whales, seabirds, and even humans. Their abundance makes them ecological keystones. Remove squid, and entire marine systems would unravel. And still, their behavior defies easy classification. They communicate without sound, using waves of color that ripple across their skin like electric storms. They navigate with an internalized map of current and depth. They remember, they strategize, and they adapt. In captivity, some species learn patterns and exhibit tool use. In the wild, they innovate in real time, adjusting attack angles, feinting, feigning, and coordinating, despite having lifespans measured in months. The storm of ink they leave behind is not just a curtain, it's a metaphor, a signal that what follows is confusion, misdirection, and a swift disappearance into shadow. In a world that prizes apex predators built on size and power, the squid offers a quieter, stranger model: intelligence, speed, and the ability to rewrite the rules of the hunt. Above them, the waves churn with wind and sunlight. Below, squid move like living torpedoes, flickering with light, color, and intent. They do not roar. They whisper in pulses and flashes, and then they vanish. In this silent war zone of the sea, they are both weapon and enigma. The assassins with arms, ink, and brains evolved not for domination, but for precision. Just beyond the reach of crashing surf, in a shallow reef shaded by waving blades of seaweed and coral fingers, the seafloor appears tranquil. Small fish dart between shadows, crabs scuttle under ledges, and floating with unhurried purpose, as if following invisible lines drawn into the water, glides a creature that doesn't just inhabit its environment, it performs within it. This is the cuttlefish, an animal that does not chase its prey with brute force, nor hide from predators with silence alone. It conquers by deception, camouflage, and communication so advanced it borders on the theatrical. Its body is small and soft, torpedo-shaped, flanked by broad fins that undulate in steady, graceful waves. These fins don't flap. They ripple continuously like velvet ribbons, keeping the cuttlefish buoyant and precise in its movements. As it approaches the reef floor, its color begins to shift. What was moments ago a speckled gray is now a patterned mix of beige and seaweed green. Its skin mimics the textures of sand and shell, complete with full shadows and uneven contouring. Within seconds, it has all but disappeared, not into the reef, as the reef. This illusion is no magic trick. It is biology at its most refined. The cuttlefish is equipped with a skin unlike any other in the animal kingdom, an organic display screen built from layers of pigment sacs, light-reflecting cells, and structural chromatophores. These chromatophores expand or contract under neural control, changing the surface coloration in real time. Beneath them, iridophores and leucophores reflect ambient light, adding shimmer or dullness depending on what the moment calls for. The result is camouflage so precise that cuttlefish can mimic not only colors, but textures and lighting conditions, down to creating the illusion of moving shadows across their bodies. But this camouflage isn't just for hiding. When it hunts, the cuttlefish becomes a visual predator of a different kind. Approaching its prey, usually shrimp or small fish, it often abandons invisibility and opts for a different tactic: confusion. The cuttlefish begins to flash patterns across its body, starting with subtle waves and ending in rhythmic pulsations of dark and light. Bands of black ripple from head to tail like optical illusions, drawing the prey's focus. In some species, researchers have observed what appears to be a hypnotic effect, the prey freezing in place, transfixed. It's not magic, but manipulation, a visual overload that disables flight response long enough for the cuttlefish to strike. When it attacks, the tentacles shoot out from beneath the arms, propelled by elastic energy stored in specialized retractor muscles. The grab is surgical, fast, and fatal. The prey is pulled into a beak hidden beneath the cuttlefish's arms, where it is shredded with a precision that betrays the calm preceding it. This is not a predator that relies on muscle or mass. It is an animal that kills with timing, disguise, and misdirection. Intelligence underpins all of it. Among invertebrates, cuttlefish rank at the top in cognitive complexity. Their brains are large relative to body size, and their learning capacity rivals that of many vertebrates. In laboratory conditions, cuttlefish have solved mazes, remembered pathways over repeated trials, and shown the ability to delay gratification, a test passed by only the most cognitively advanced animals. In the wild, this intelligence is put to use in unexpected ways. Juvenile cuttlefish, for example, can learn what prey to target by watching others feed. They understand visual context, responding to threats not just based on instinct, but environment. And unlike most marine predators, cuttlefish are curious rather than reactive. They explore, investigate, even play. Communication is where their sophistication becomes most apparent. Cuttlefish do not speak, but they broadcast. Every inch of skin can transmit information, and not just through color. Texture and posture play a role too. A cuttlefish may flatten its body to appear larger when confronted, or tuck in its arms and display contrasting color bands when warning rivals. It can split its appearance bilaterally, one side showing calm, neutral camouflage, while the other flashes courtship colors, as if speaking to two audiences at once. This lateral display allows a male to woo a female discreetly while avoiding aggression from another male nearby. Deception, again, is not just survival, it's strategy. Nowhere is this clearer than in mating. In some species, males will disguise themselves as females to sneak past larger rivals guarding mates. These cross-dressed males suppress male-specific coloration, mimic female posture, and swim gently toward the guarded female. If the larger male accepts the ruse, the disguised male may copulate while the dominant one is distracted. Genetic studies show this tactic is not just bluff, it results in actual fertilization. Here, evolution has produced not just physical flexibility, but social cunning. Beneath their graceful glide, however, is a vulnerability written into their biology. Cuttlefish live fast and die young. Most species live only 1 to 2 years. They hatch from eggs the size of grapes, miniature replicas of their parents already capable of basic camouflage and hunting. There is no parental care. They grow quickly, breed once, and die soon after spawning. This ephemeral life cycle means their intelligence blooms quickly, peaks early, and is gone just as fast. It's a condensed version of evolution's experiment with neural complexity in an animal that will not live long enough to pass down learned behavior. Their internal structure reflects their strange design. Despite their name, cuttlefish are not fish. They are cephalopods, like squid and octopuses, and their closest relatives are invertebrate masterminds, not vertebrate swimmers. They possess an internal shell called the cuttlebone, a porous, lightweight structure that allows for buoyancy control. By adjusting gas and fluid within the chambers of this bone, cuttlefish can fine-tune their position in the water column with minimal effort. It's this internal balance that allows them to hover, glide, and pivot with such unerring control. Predators do exist, of course. Dolphins, sharks, large fish, and even diving seabirds take advantage of the cuttlefish's brief distracted moments. To defend itself, the cuttlefish can ink and vanish like its squid cousins. But the ink serves another function, not just as a smokescreen, but as a chemical irritant. Some species of cuttlefish produce mucus-rich ink clouds that linger longer and affect the chemoreceptors of nearby predators, buying time to escape. It is a final act of misdirection from an animal whose survival depends on confusion and control. In some coastal cultures, the cuttlefish is both revered and exploited. Its cuttlebone is collected for bird calcium supplements, its flesh eaten in stews and grilled dishes. But in its own realm, it is not food. It is an artist of illusion. It draws no lines, speaks no sounds, yet communicates across a full spectrum of color, posture, and presence. Its movements are brushstrokes on water, precise and dynamic. To watch a cuttlefish is to watch a creature that lives by adapting not just to threats, but to attention. It knows when to vanish, when to flash, when to perform, and when to kill. In the coded language of the ocean, It is both the sender and the encryption. And in the quiet shallows where it thrives, it reminds us that the most advanced forms of survival are not always found in muscle or teeth, but in the ability to control what others see and when they see it. In the brackish estuaries of Southeast Asia, where freshwater rivers bleed into the ocean and the water takes on a tea-stained hue, the sea floor is a place of quiet ambiguity. The bottom is soft, silty, and often lifeless to the casual eye. No coral gardens here, no bustling reef cities, just muddy flats, scattered debris, and the occasional ripple from a passing goby or mudskipper. Yet beneath this bland veneer lies one of the most inventive predators on Earth. It doesn't tower or chase or bite with brute force. Instead, it lies, impersonates, vanishes, and reappears as something entirely new. This is the domain of the mimic octopus, a shapeshifter so advanced it can wear multiple disguises before a single heartbeat finishes. At first glance, there's nothing about it that screams menace. The mimic octopus is slender and pale, its body streaked with brown and white bands that pulse in tune with its movement. It is not large, most grow to around 60 centimeters, but size has never been its weapon. What it lacks in mass, it compensates for with control. Each of its 8 arms is a ribbon of possibility, guided by a complex nervous system that doesn't rely solely on the brain. In fact, 2/3 of an octopus's neurons are located in its arms, making each limb semi-autonomous, capable of reacting, deciding, and manipulating the world independently. For the mimic, this distributed intelligence is the foundation of its illusions. Unlike reef octopuses that prefer to vanish into holes or wedge themselves beneath rocks, the mimic octopus thrives in exposed terrain. Here, on flat, barren sand where camouflage should fail, it has adapted a different survival strategy, become something else entirely. When threatened, the mimic doesn't just flee, it transforms. Flattening its body and aligning its arms in perfect symmetry, it can take on the shape and movement of a flounder, gliding just above the sea floor with uncanny realism. If approached from behind, it may rear up and coil 2 arms, displaying bold black and white stripes in imitation of a banded sea snake, a venomous predator few would dare to challenge. In other instances, it lifts its body and trails 2 arms behind while tucking the others beneath, mimicking the stinging spines and posture of a lionfish. These aren't crude impressions. They're performances, choreographed down to body posture, movement rhythm, and even the timing of pauses. It's this behavioral mimicry, not just visual mimicry, that makes the species so extraordinary. Many animals use camouflage or coloration to look like something else, but the mimic octopus adapts its entire body language, weaponizing its flexibility, color control, and environmental awareness to deploy whatever impersonation best suits the moment. These choices appear to be context-dependent. If pursued by a territorial damselfish, a species known to harass potential threats, it may mimic a banded sea snake, a known predator of damselfish. This suggests a degree of environmental reasoning, a tactical selection of identity based on the observer. Biologists didn't even know this creature existed until 1998, when it was formally described off the coast of Sulawesi, Indonesia. Until then, its behaviors had likely gone unnoticed, dismissed as misidentified fish or squid. It makes sense. The better the impersonation, the less likely anyone realizes what they're seeing. Since its discovery, the mimic octopus has continued to blur the lines between biology and illusion. Footage has confirmed at least 15 different impersonations, and likely more remain undocumented. Flatfish, jellyfish, stingrays, even crabs and sea stars. The mimic's repertoire seems limited only by the terrain and the threat. This flexibility is built on one of nature's most remarkable muscular systems. Octopuses lack bones entirely. Their bodies are composed of soft tissue supported by hydrostatic pressure, an internal water-based structure that allows limbs to elongate, contract, coil, or flatten at will. The mimic octopus uses this freedom to explore the full range of shapes around it, and combined with chromatophores and texture-changing skin, it can switch from drab sediment mimicry to high-contrast warning coloration in less than a second. It's not just a master of disguise, it's a master of transitions. These talents serve both offensive and defensive purposes. When feeding, the mimic octopus uses stealth and confusion to its advantage. It preys on small crustaceans, worms, and fish, often creeping forward under the guise of something less alarming, or disguising its approach with flowing, non-threatening movements. Once in range, it strikes with precision, arms closing in, suckers adhering instantly, and a sharp beak delivering the fatal bite. Like its relatives, the mimic octopus possesses venom, though its potency is geared for subduing prey, not repelling larger threats. Mimicry, in biological terms, is often categorized by its purpose. Batesian mimicry occurs when a harmless species imitates a dangerous one. Mullerian mimicry involves two harmful species adopting similar appearances to reinforce their warning signals. The mimic octopus doesn't fit neatly into either category. Its behavior changes so rapidly and so specifically that it's more appropriate to consider its abilities as dynamic deception, adaptive mimicry based on live input rather than hardwired instinct. This level of environmental responsiveness is extremely rare in the animal kingdom and virtually unheard of in invertebrates. What's more, this impersonation often happens while in motion, in fluid-shifting habitats. Unlike a stick insect or leaf-tailed gecko, whose stillness is part of the illusion, the mimic octopus must perform its deception while navigating turbulent shallows, evading predators and seizing prey. It choreographs its escape in real time, calculating not only how to vanish, but what to become. It does not passively resemble, it actively becomes. In evolutionary terms, this ability likely developed through selective pressures favoring deception in hostile, exposed environments. The muddy estuaries and sandy flats of Southeast Asia offer little in the way of structural shelter. For a soft-bodied, defenseless animal, disappearing isn't optional, it's essential. And over millennia, natural selection favored individuals that could do more than just blend in. Those who could lie successfully, convincingly, and variably survived long enough to pass on their genes. Deception became not just a tactic, but a hereditary skill set. And yet, for all its trickery, the mimic octopus is still vulnerable. Sharks, large predatory fish, and seabirds occasionally succeed where mimicry fails, particularly when ambushes leave no time for transformation. The mimic cannot afford to hesitate. Its survival hinges on the speed of its decision, the believability of its role, and the chance that a predator will buy the lie just long enough for the real animal to vanish beneath the mud. In the quiet shallows where it thrives, the mimic octopus leaves no nest, no lasting structure. It glides across a stage of sediment, performing its repertoire for whoever happens to be watching: prey, predator, or the occasional passing diver. It is not the strongest animal here, nor the fastest, nor the most aggressive, but in a sea filled with hunters and hunted, it is something rarer, a master of illusion, capable of rewriting its identity in real time, using the very assumptions of its enemies against them. In the mimic's world, truth is negotiable, identity is strategy, and survival is not about becoming invisible, but about becoming anything else. In the calm, sun-dappled shallows, where seagrass meadows sway like green curtains in the coastal current, a peculiar figure hovers upright among the blades. It does not swim with the rhythm of fish, nor slither like an eel. It drifts. A body armored in interlocking bony plates, a neck bent at a permanent angle, and a head shaped like something from a medieval chessboard. The seahorse, in stillness, resembles more a delicate toy than a predator. And yet beneath its fragile appearance lies one of the ocean's most effective hunters, built not for speed, but for stealth, not for strength, but for timing. The seahorse has no teeth, no stomach, and no tail fin. Its body is rigid, encased in a ring of bony plates that offer protection but deny flexibility. Its dorsal fin, small, translucent, and fluttering like a hummingbird's wing, propels it forward in short bursts, while its pectoral fins near the head steer with delicate adjustments. These movements are so gentle they barely disturb the water around them. The result is almost total silence. In an environment where motion and vibration often betray intent, the seahorse approaches its prey like a ghost. Its hunting grounds are microcosms, dense algae, coral rubble or underwater roots, where tiny crustaceans gather in clouds. Copepods, amphipods, and larval shrimp drift close to the grass blades, unaware of the silent predator floating inches away. Then, with a flicker too fast for the human eye, the seahorse snaps its head forward and inhales the prey through its snout. The strike is not powered by muscle alone. Instead, the seahorse uses a technique known as pivot feeding, storing elastic energy in ligaments that release in a rapid flick, drawing the head upward and mouth toward the prey. At the same time, a vacuum is generated in the tubular snout, pulling in water and prey in a blink. The process is so fast, often under 5 milliseconds, that the prey has no chance to react. There is no chase, no struggle, just a puff of suction and it's gone. This method of feeding, paired with near-perfect stillness, makes the seahorse one of the most efficient predators of small prey in the ocean. In lab conditions, some individuals have been recorded striking with over 90% success. Their approach velocity is so slow and undetectable that it falls beneath the prey's escape threshold, meaning the prey doesn't even perceive the danger before it's too late. It is hunting as paradox. Slow becomes stealth, and stealth becomes speed. Anchoring this strategy is the seahorse's prehensile tail, curled like a question mark when at rest, but capable of coiling tightly around grass, coral, or mangrove roots. Unlike most fish, which use their tails for propulsion, the seahorse uses it as a tether. This adaptation gives it positional stability in swirling currents and allows it to conserve energy while scanning for prey. Even during storms or tidal surges, seahorses remain latched to the substrate, calmly drifting with the pull of water, but never swept away. This anchoring also plays a key role in courtship, reproduction, and even survival, an evolutionary shift from swimming to holding on. Yet for all their hunting success, seahorses are highly vulnerable. Their armor protects against some predators, but not all. Larger fish, crabs, and birds can crush them or pluck them from the water with ease. Their slow speed offers no escape, and their camouflage, though impressive, is not infallible. Many species have evolved colors and skin filaments to blend into their surroundings, but they rely on the stillness of habitat more than any defensive behavior. They survive not by confronting threats, but by avoiding them altogether. And then there is the matter of reproduction, where the seahorse flips yet another biological script. In all known seahorse species, it is the male who becomes pregnant. Courtship begins with a synchronized dance. The male and female align themselves in posture and color, circling one another, tails entwining in a slow, deliberate spiral. Over hours or days, they repeat this ritual, reinforcing pair bonds and preparing for the final exchange. Then, in a moment both subtle and profound, the female deposits her eggs into a specialized brood pouch on the male's abdomen. There, the eggs are fertilized and embedded into the lining of the pouch, where the male's body supplies oxygen, nutrients, and osmoregulatory balance. The pregnancy lasts anywhere from 10 days to several weeks, depending on the species and environmental conditions. During this time, the male's body swells, and he becomes more stationary, often remaining latched to one spot, while his energy shifts toward developing the young. When birth arrives, it is not gentle. The pouch contracts rhythmically, forcing out tiny, fully formed seahorses, dozens to hundreds at a time, each no longer than a grain of rice. These juveniles receive no parental care and must survive on their own immediately. Most will not. Mortality rates are high, with only a handful surviving to adulthood in the wild. This reproductive role reversal has intrigued scientists for decades. It is one of the rare cases in the animal kingdom where males carry and birth offspring, a reversal of the norm that challenges assumptions about parental investment and sexual selection. In seahorse populations, where males limit reproductive output by brood capacity, females often compete for mates, another twist in conventional evolutionary roles. The evolutionary path to the seahorse's modern form is equally strange. Genetic evidence places them within the Syngnathidae family, alongside pipefish and sea dragons, all of which share similar elongated bodies, suction-feeding snouts, and male pregnancy traits. Fossil records suggest that their unique body plan, upright posture, curled tail, and armor, evolved relatively recently in evolutionary terms, likely as an adaptation to complex shallow habitats where maneuverability and camouflage were more advantageous than speed. Yet even among their closest relatives, seahorses remain uniquely bizarre. Their eyes move independently like a chameleon's, scanning for prey in opposite directions. Their gills are rudimentary, requiring them to breathe through rapid buccal pumping. They lack ribs, scales, and typical swim bladders, using their bony plate system and subtle fin control to maintain vertical stability. Everything about them seems like an exception to the rule, and perhaps that is the key to their survival. In ecosystems where conventional predators dominate through pursuit and aggression, the seahorse thrives by sidestepping the rules. It doesn't need to be fast if it can remain unseen. It doesn't need jaws if it can vacuum its meals with mathematical precision. It doesn't need to roam if it can hold tight in the chaos and wait for opportunity to drift by. Even reproduction, the most biologically guarded function of all, is turned inside out. Females investing energy in eggs, males investing their bodies in the outcome. In a world increasingly shaped by disturbance, coastal development, pollution, overfishing, the seahorse is both resilient and fragile. Its reliance on specific habitats, like seagrass beds and mangroves, makes it vulnerable to destruction. At the same time, its quiet efficiency and low energy needs allow it to persist in places where more conventional fish might not. Conservation efforts now recognize seahorses as indicators of healthy shallow ecosystems, and their presence signals balance in areas often overlooked. To watch a seahorse hunt is to witness precision in its quietest form. No fanfare, no chase, only subtle posture, stillness, and then the invisible strike. It is a predator without menace, a partner in birth, and a creature that, by all traditional metrics, should not function as it does. Yet it does, beautifully, efficiently, and without apology. In the drift and silence of the seagrass, among the flickering light and slow rhythm of current, the seahorse endures. Not by racing ahead, but by knowing exactly when and how to wait. At first glance, the coral reef looks serene, an explosion of color and life, bustling with movement, yet framed in tranquility. Shafts of light break through the surface in golden columns, revealing a landscape built not of stone or sand, but of life itself. Coral colonies rise like miniature mountain ranges, crested in soft, waving tentacles. Fish of every shape and hue weave between anemones and sea fans. It feels like a city at peace, but that's an illusion. The reef is a war zone, stitched together by truces and contested by ambush. Every crevice, coral head, and shadowed overhang hides not just shelter, but opportunity for violence. Here, camouflage is currency, mimicry is armor, and silence often means survival. In this place, nearly every animal featured in the chapters before has found a home, a hunting ground, or a stage to die on. It is not a garden, it is a theater, painted in color, lit by the sun, but soaked in the blood of constant struggle. The coral itself is alive, though it moves so slowly it can be mistaken for rock. Each reef structure is built by billions of coral polyps, tiny anemone-like creatures that secrete calcium carbonate to form protective exoskeletons. Over generations, they build upward and outward, their skeletal remains forming the architecture of the reef. These polyps have stinging tentacles armed with nematocysts, cells that fire harpoons laced with venom into anything that brushes too close. Even coral competes with coral. Some species extend sweeper tentacles several inches long, lashing neighboring colonies with stings in a chemical turf war for space and light. It is construction by conquest, one slow, painful millimeter at a time. Above the hard coral base, soft-bodied hunters and grazers wage constant battles. The stonefish, almost indistinguishable from the coral rubble, waits motionless for hours until a fish strays too near, then snaps it up in a vacuum-powered gulp. The lionfish floats like a feathered ghost between coral heads, flaring its venomous spines to trap smaller fish against reef walls before swallowing them whole. The mimic octopus darts from one crevice to another, adopting the guise of lionfish or flatfish to buy seconds of safety. The cuttlefish flashes warning stripes across its skin as it hovers over sand patches, eyes locked on shrimp that haven't yet sensed their fate. Nightfall triggers a dramatic transformation. As the sun fades and blue is replaced by the grainy darkness of moonlight and bioluminescence, the reef changes hands. Daytime fish retreat into coral cavities, their colors dulling for camouflage, their bodies held motionless in crevices. In their place, a new caste emerges, moray eels winding from their burrows like sinuous thieves, brittle stars scaling coral towers with eerie grace, and crustaceans swarming the sandy floor in search of carrion. Nocturnal hunters like the banded sea crate, a venomous sea snake, slip silently through the cracks, their tongues flicking the water for scent. The blood stage does not rest. Even the seahorse, usually anchored to a swaying strand of algae or coral fan, feels the change. The night waters bring the risk of being spotted by nocturnal predators with acute low-light vision. It retreats further into its camouflage, minimizing its profile and avoiding even the faintest movement. The mimic octopus, on the other hand, thrives in this confusion, its silhouette merging with the flicker of moonlight on sand, its tentacles reshaped for whatever threat might pass. The reef is not all sharp teeth and sting-loaded barbs. It is also a field of strange alliances and delicate balances. Cleaner wrasses set up stations where larger fish arrive to have parasites removed, offering a brief ceasefire in the predator-prey dynamic. Groupers wait patiently as shrimp crawl into their gills. Even apex predators pause for hygiene in this arena, allowing the smallest of creatures to climb inside their mouths and clean. But these temporary truces are constantly at risk. If the balance shifts, If the cleaner fish vanish due to overfishing or environmental stress, the entire system begins to unravel. Climate change presses down on the reef like a slow curse. Rising sea temperatures trigger coral bleaching, a process in which corals expel the symbiotic algae living in their tissues, algae that provide both color and energy. Without them, the coral starves, turns ghostly white, and eventually dies. Bleaching doesn't just impact the coral, it collapses the entire ecosystem that depends on it. Predator and prey relationships dissolve, hiding spaces vanish, and the tapestry of biodiversity begins to tear. A single bleaching event can cause centuries of biological construction to crumble in weeks. Ocean acidification, driven by increased atmospheric carbon dioxide, compounds the damage. As the pH of seawater drops, corals and shell-building creatures struggle to maintain their skeletons. The very structure of the reef begins to dissolve, first subtly, then catastrophically. Without the hard skeletons, the reef cannot protect coastlines, cannot support its armies of camouflaged hunters and venomous drifters. It cannot be the blood stage. It becomes instead a graveyard. Yet for now, in the few reefs that remain vibrant, the drama continues. A goby guards its burrow against a blenny twice its size. A triggerfish blasts jets of water at the sand to expose buried prey. An octopus slides through a coral archway, its skin morphing into mottled reds and browns with each passing second. And all around them, thousands of eyes, compound, stalked, binocular, watch from the shadows, waiting for the right angle to strike, or the right crack to hide in. Every inch of the reef is contested, every silence is temporary. The coral reef is one of the most densely packed ecosystems on Earth. Despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor, it supports more than 25% of all marine species. That's not because life is easy here, but because life here demands innovation. The sheer variety of ways to kill, avoid being killed, feed, communicate, and reproduce is unmatched. Evolution doesn't just thrive here, it experiments here. The mimic octopus became a shapeshifter. The cuttlefish learned to talk in color. The lionfish weaponized beauty. The seahorse, slow and strange, found a way to survive by anchoring itself to the chaos. All of them, in one way or another, are sculpted by the reef. This arena, this blood stage, is not defined by scale nor by carnage, but by complexity. It is an arms race of deception, chemistry, speed, and adaptation. Every animal is both hunter and hunted. Every coral crack might shelter life or death. And the beauty so often praised in postcards and documentaries is only skin deep. Beneath the color is a struggle millions of years in the making, unfolding each second beneath the surface, where even the silence is alive with tension. Here, death is not chaos. It is choreography, and survival, at its most refined, is just another role on the reef's ever-shifting stage. Beneath the vast expanse of sunlit waves, under the glimmering surface where wind draws spirals and swells rise and fall, the ocean begins a slow descent into complexity. Light thins, colors fade, and with each meter downward, the rules of life begin to shift. Here, survival is no longer defined by dominance in the traditional sense, by speed, aggression, or towering size, but by strategy, subtlety, and the art of being misunderstood. What thrives in these depths is not what intimidates, but what outsmarts. This is the realm where evolution writes in riddles. Across the previous pages of this marine chronicle, we followed creatures that, by all conventional metrics, should not reign. The stonefish, barely distinguishable from a crumbling rock, sits motionless for hours, yet its venomous spines have turned ankles into emergency cases and made it one of the most dangerous ambush predators on Earth. It doesn't chase its prey, it waits for them to make the mistake. This is the power of invisibility, weaponized into lethality, proof that doing nothing can be a form of mastery. The lionfish takes that strategy and exports it. A foreign invader to the Atlantic, its ornate frills and slow glide mask a methodical killer, one that reshapes ecosystems simply by being present. Venom arms its defense, but its true dominance comes from the ecological vacuum it fills, unopposed, efficient, and tragically beautiful. In the war for the reef, it is the unwanted general no one can dethrone. Then came the starfish, soft, slow, and silent, yet capable of extruding its stomach into a clam and digesting it from the inside out. Some tear coral polyps from their skeletons by the millions, turning vibrant reefscapes into dead rubble. Others clone themselves from a single limb fragment, sidestepping mortality with a casual defiance. They are, by appearance, the least likely villains. and yet their strange biology rewrites the predator-prey script altogether. The stingray follows its own doctrine. Instead of strength or speed, it glides low, hugging the seafloor like a whisper. Its flat body conceals electrical sensors tuned to the faintest muscular contractions beneath sand. One flick of its wings, one jolt of its barbed tail, and a fish disappears into silence. And when threatened, it doesn't posture. It disappears in a cloud of sand, leaving behind a memory and a warning. The squid is the opposite in tempo. It surges with bursts of speed, trailing ink and confusion in its wake. Some hunt in coordinated packs, others flash colors in aggressive pulses, all with a nervous system so distributed that their limbs think on their own. In the deep sea, their kin become giants. Tentacled myths come to life, battling sperm whales in battles few will ever witness. These are animals that combine agility, intelligence, and deception into a package so alien, it challenges the very framework of how we classify complexity. Cuttlefish blur the line further. With skin that changes color, texture, and pattern at will, they communicate in pulses of light and contrast, camouflage in the blink of an eye, and lure prey into fatal stillness with visual illusions. They don't just hide, they perform. Their limbs reach gently for shrimp, already paralyzed by confusion, and their brains, among the most complex invertebrate minds ever studied, manage both hunting and theater simultaneously. Then the mimic octopus arrived, walking the tightrope between genius and madness. It impersonates other animals not by shape alone, but by behavior. It knows when to become a venomous sea snake, when to act like a lionfish, and when to slither like a flatfish through hostile terrain. Its body is soft, its speed is average, and its strength is negligible. And yet it survives where others don't, because it wears fear like a costume. It understands, instinctively or otherwise, that belief is more powerful than truth in the underwater world. Even the seahorse, awkward, slow, upright, defies expectations. It doesn't swim well, doesn't bite, and doesn't chase. Yet it succeeds through suction precision, independent eye control, and a tail that anchors it against the chaos. It's a predator of opportunity and accuracy. And in a final twist, it is the male who gives birth, redefining not only predation, but reproduction. A creature that should be easy to overlook becomes a symbol of how stability and patience carve their own niche in a world of movement. All of these characters share a stage, the coral reef, that vibrant cradle of ambush and mimicry, of alliances and betrayal, where death is fast but often unnoticed. It is there that we see the culmination of the ocean's unwritten laws, and in that stage the rules are inverted. To be fast is not always to win, to be strong is not always to survive. What matters is adaptability, surprise, the ability to vanish, or to pretend convincingly enough to alter a predator's decision for one critical second. This is the ocean's code. It doesn't reward brashness, it rewards ambiguity. Venom becomes more potent than muscle. Mimicry replaces armor. Color and texture shift not just to blend in, but to send messages, to manipulate, to deceive. The ocean doesn't care for style, only function. And in this world, the function that often succeeds is the one that isn't easily seen, heard, or understood. At its core, this strange hierarchy reminds us that evolution is not linear. There is no singular path to becoming effective. Apex predators may soar through currents or lie dormant in mud. Some strike like lightning, others wait in silence. Many, like the animals we followed here, are masters not of attack, but of timing, of disguise, of positioning themselves exactly where a mistake will occur. It is in these margins, between threat and illusion, between motion and stillness, that life thrives in forms most would never expect. The ocean does not celebrate only the obvious kings. It elevates the outliers, the experimental designs that somehow worked. It proves repeatedly that there is power in softness, danger in beauty, and success in being strange. As the camera pans back across this watery world, from murky shallows to open blue, from the coral towers to the shadowed trenches, it becomes clear that this ecosystem, with all its complexity, has evolved not just to sustain life, but to test it. Every adaptation is a response to pressure. Every strange body shape, every venom gland, every mimicry tactic was forged by the quiet violence of time. In the end, it's not about the biggest jaws or the fastest fins. It's about how life, when pushed to its edge, finds ways to rewrite the script. The ocean didn't choose one path, it chose them all. And in doing so, it reminds us that the deadliest creatures are not always what they seem. Sometimes they are the ones that wait, or hide, or pretend. In the deep, the strangest win, and they always have.